Carnage Reigns might be over, but Normie Osborn and his symbiote pal Rascal's problems are only just beginning. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Red Goblin issue number 6 and find out together, shall we? So then, this brand new arc kicks off basically like that whole big crossover event didn't happen. We check back on in with the Goblin Nation, who have only been more emboldened after their leader, Phil Urich the Goblin King, was able to steal some of Normie Osborn's goblin blood. Now they're super fast, super strong, but not exactly any smarter, choosing to simply rob banks and deface buildings and other such acts of childish anarchy, which might actually be fitting given goblins' own folkloric place as tricksters and troublemakers. It seems that Phil Urich himself has actually stepped away from the gang in public eye, mainly because that blood transfusion he got from Norman didn't actually stop his whole zombie decaying problem. And now it would seem that Phil's second-in-command, Kendra, is actually getting more love and appreciation from the gang than the Goblin King is. Because of that, Phil decides to try and bring her closer by giving her a special mission as well as a brand new costume and identity, because after all, every Goblin King needs his own Goblin Knight. Now what's the mission, you might be asking yourself? Well, some good old-fashioned kidnapping. You'll recall at the end of the last arc, Phil had actually managed to grab a name tag off Normie, revealing what fancy New York prep school he went to. The only problem is that it wasn't Normie's name on the name tag, it was actually Tim Anders, the kid who actually tried to defend Normie from some stuck-up rich kid bullies. As we check on in with Normie, we see that his entire school is actually on a big field trip right now to the New York Museum of History. The young Osborn gets particularly wrapped up in one exhibit depicting mankind's shared history with canines, domesticated dogs, and the whole nature versus nurture thing. Again, I've literally been trumpeting this since my very first video on this series, and that is Red Goblin is basically a boy and his dog book, only it's a boy and his symbiote. And hey, speaking of symbiotes, how is Rascal right now? Well, honestly, not good. He's still recovering from absorbing all that evil Cletus Cassidy symbiote goop in the Carnage Reigns event. And while he does, Rascal isn't just giving Normie the cold shoulder, but he's actually hiding out in a bunch of his old memories that you yourself will probably recognize if you're a longtime Spider-Man fan. We see a couple times that Normie got kidnapped by supervillains, and even a very famous panel where he's smashing up a Spider-Man action figure. Yeah, as I've mentioned before, Normie was in the books, but he was never really a character until this new series, so I actually really appreciate Parkindale going back and doing his homework and trying to figure out what exactly were the big moments in young Normie's life. Now, the only person who can actually see that poor Normie is troubled right now is Tim Anders himself, though the book does that annoying thing where these clearly preteen characters all talk to each other like adults. Tim even says, hey, do you want to go get an egg cream and talk about it? Something I'm sure that no child has ever said before, but then again, this is New York, the home of the egg cream. So if they would drink them anywhere, I guess it would be here. Also, for our more international viewers out there, an egg cream is a drink that contains neither eggs nor cream. Of course, this happy day at the museum has to get interrupted by the Goblin Nation and the brand new Goblin Knight coming on in, threatening the adults and looking for Tim. This situation, of course, also puts poor Normie in a bad situation. He knows that he has to defend Tim, even if it means getting Rascal out of his depressive funk before he's ready, and also meaning that he might very well have to transform and potentially scare the crap out of his younger brother Stanley, who's also on the trip. Also, Phil Urich didn't fill his henchmen in on why exactly they were going to kidnap this kid right now, so when the Red Goblin actually does show up, they're pretty damn amazed, almost like this guy's been stalking them. A big fight breaks out, and ultimately it's fine, but my problem actually comes in the form of the internal monologue, basically that we're only 6 issues into this series now, and Normie is already starting to repeat himself. Basically, he hits all the points that he's been hitting all series long. Will he be defined by his nature or his nurture? Is he evil just by being born an Osborn? Should he strive to be a better friend and role model for Rascal in hopes that he will end up better than him? Should he also strive to maybe be a better role model for his younger brother Stanley? Again, we've kind of been here. Though, perhaps in an interesting twist, Normie decides to screw thinking about all these complicated questions and just kind of goes on symbiote autopilot, so as the Red Goblin, he can tear into these baddies. That probably would have been enough to deal with the new Goblin Knight too if Kendra didn't come packing some rocket boots that allowed her to actually help even things up. It's during all of this chaos, poor Tim ends up getting grabbed by the Goblin Nation anyway, and Goblin Knight escapes out the front door only to have Red Goblin end up running smack dab into a wall of cops, who naturally all think he's a bad guy because, I mean, look at him, he looks like the frickin' devil. Now, as the comic begins to come to a close, Goblin Knight and her gang regroup in the sewers. Kendra places a call to Phil and wonders when they should meet back up to turn over the kid. Goblin King actually tells his henchmen to wait and stay put, which doesn't exactly sound like the most tactical move ever until you begin to realize that Phil was totally lying before when he said it was cool that Kendra is starting to get so much love and appreciation as his second in command. Yeah, Goblin King doesn't play that, and he's now taken the opportunity to hire frickin' Crossbones of all people to go and kill his brand new Goblin Knight and the kid to make it all look like a hostage deal gone wrong. Well, you know what, for what it's worth, I sure didn't see that coming, and so that was Red Goblin issue number 6, everyone, and overall I thought it was fine. As I stated before, one of the things that I actually really liked about this series and the thing that kind of endeared me to the whole enterprise is that it generally does feel like the creative team is kind of feeling this all out as they go along. Trying to make Normie Osborn into a real three-dimensional character, give him some pathos, give him some interesting obstacles to overcome, and a supporting cast all his own. But I think this issue kind of showcases the negative aspects of trying to figure it all out on the fly. Mainly, like I said, this issue feels like it retreads too much old ground. Normie basically says a lot of the same stuff all over again, and if Normie was able to actually manage to stand up against Phil Urich the Goblin King, then why should I worry about him having to fight this brand new Goblin Knight? Also, I know this series, if it's going to continue, will probably need to be able to function without Norman Osborn hanging over all of the proceedings, but for what it's worth, I think the story is actually much better with him in it. Overall, I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 6.5 out of 10. Not bad, but it's certainly been better, and I certainly hope that they're able to do a bit more with the rest of this arc. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quests. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.